You've mistaken restraint for weakness, Chancellor. Again. That was the first sentence spoken by Captain Mark Arlen in the Great Council chamber after 3 hours of insults thinly disguised as diplomatic discourse. No one had expected him to speak, and certainly not like that. Humans were supposed to be the quiet ones in these meetings, the new species, the low-impact civilization recently admitted into galactic governance. Mark hadn't said a word for the entire session, just sat in his uniform, back straight, eyes sharp, hands folded. But when the fourth ambassador that day made a joke about Earth's provincial culture and its quaint military customs, something shifted. The silence after his words could have flattened mountains, the kind that makes every living creature go still, just in case a predator had entered the room. Captain Arlen stood up. No translator device buzzed. He wasn't using one. That made the translation lag 2 seconds behind, a subtle insult among high diplomats. "I've been sitting here listening to each of you," he said calmly, "mocking our food, laughing at our ships, wondering if we even belong in this room. You treat our science as if it's guesswork. You dismiss our defense capabilities like we're still using sticks." He paused just long enough for a few of the council members to shift in their seats. "But when the Zrathi collapsed the twin moons of Ulthon Prime, who did you send? Not the Jarsari, not the Zuleks, not even the vaunted Archivalans. You sent humans." Councillor Viren of the Volcari Federation narrowed his eyes. "Because it was considered a Class 2 containment scenario, high risk of biological hazard, your species is disposable enough to—" The word disposable rang out like a gong. That's when something unspoken snapped. Lieutenant Halverson, standing behind Arlen, took one step forward. That was all. One step. His hands remained behind his back, but the rest of the room responded like he'd drawn a weapon. "Do not mistake our diplomacy for dependency," Halverson said. His voice wasn't loud, but it carried. "You asked us to be peaceful. We gave you peace. You asked us to observe customs. We played along. You wanted a harmless, agreeable species. We gave you polite mode." Mark tilted his head, studying the rows of delegates, many of them scaled, feathered, or covered in crystalline plating. "But there's a reason we kept our war relics locked away. A reason we don't talk about the years before our planet united." Councillor Tyrax of the Hexari clicked his jawbones together. "The Galactic Accord prohibits historical aggression being used as justification for—" "No one's justifying anything," Arlen said, interrupting. "I'm explaining. See, polite mode is something we learned to adopt when we realized the rest of you were terrified of us. You didn't say it out loud, but we noticed. We learned to smile more. We adjusted our posture, made our language softer. We stopped showing teeth when we laughed." Councillor Zarin of the Iskor Clade gestured with 2 of his tentacles. "If you believe we fear you, perhaps it is your ego that clouds your perception." Arlen looked directly at Zarin. Iskor ships stopped patrolling the Elnari expanse the moment Earth vessels were assigned to the same quadrant. Don't deny it. No rebuttal came. Everyone knew it was true. Humanity had only been a Galactic Council member for 11 years. In those 11 years, piracy dropped by 42%, illegal mining by 67%, and smuggling operations in the mid-sector all but disappeared. Councilors applauded those changes, but they never asked how it was done. No one wanted to know why human ships always came back with only half of the crew emotionally intact. They called it minor psychological attrition. The humans called it doing the dirty work. "You mock our soldiers, but send them where you won't go," Halverson added. "You belittle our ships, but ask for escort. You dismiss our medicine, then beg us to stabilize your wounded, all while whispering about how primitive we are. But now we're here, in this room, at your table." "And you don't like it," Arlen said. Councillor Viren hissed. "You're overstepping. This is a diplomatic setting, not a battlefield." "That's the mistake right there," Arlen replied. "You think the battlefield is somewhere else. You think it's a place, a location. For humans, the battlefield starts the moment you decide we don't belong." Silence again. Only the faint hum of environmental control systems could be heard. One of the junior delegates from the Branthari coalition accidentally knocked over a water vessel with his elbow. No one acknowledged it. "You all wanted polite," Arlen said. "You got it. You got men who nodded when you mocked them, who bowed when you dismissed them, who swallowed insults for the sake of unity. But you kept pushing, and today you called us disposable. Halverson leaned forward slightly. There is no species in this galaxy less disposable than a trained human in combat. The council chamber shifted again. Most of the non-human species had no eyelids, but those who did blinked. Counselor Tyrax, usually unreadable, opened his four mandibles in what humans had learned was a nervous tick. "What are you implying, Captain?" "I'm not implying anything," Arlen said. "I'm stating it. You have had 11 years of polite mode. I'm here to tell you it's over. You wanted the humans who shook hands and used honorifics? That era ended the moment you told me my people were expendable." He picked up the small display tablet on his seat. "Effective immediately, Earth is placing a hold on all joint military operations not yet in the field. Our fleets will continue to defend neutral zones, but we will no longer offer support without strategic consultation and operational authority." Counselor Zarin sputtered. "That's a violation of Article 17. "No," Arlen said, walking toward the center of the room. "That's what happens when your council calls us cannon fodder." He placed the tablet onto the central console. "As of now, we're switching to practical mode. If you don't know what that means yet, you will." The silence following Arlen's announcement hung heavy over the chamber, but not for long. Counselor Viren's tail flicked behind him like a whip. "You think you can threaten the entire council and face no consequence?" "No," Arlen said calmly. "We're not threatening anyone. That would imply intent to cause harm. What I'm doing is much simpler. I'm reminding you that you don't get to have us and insult us. You can choose one." Counselor Zarin's tendrils quivered. "You cannot unilaterally suspend cooperative defense clauses. It undermines the accord." Lieutenant Halverson stepped forward again, this time placing a data chip onto the center dais. "According to subsection 11C of the Accord, Article 6, each sovereign civilization reserves the right to halt voluntary operations pending renegotiation of tactical roles. We are exercising that right. Legally." Counselor Tyrax looked from the chip to Arlen. "Your species is young. You lack the context to understand what kind of instability this could introduce." "No," Arlen replied. "You just hate that we've read your rulebook more carefully than you have." A few heads turned, specifically the Averine delegation, who had never spoken much but always observed closely. Their translator unit blinked once, then twice. That was their equivalent of stifled laughter. Even they knew this had been coming. The room's lights dimmed momentarily, signaling a new priority transmission. A hologram shimmered above the central platform, revealing Admiral Thanek of the Andari Commonwealth. His presence was unexpected. He rarely engaged in political sessions. "Captain Arlen," the Admiral said, "you're making quite the ripple." "Not a ripple," Arlen replied. "A clarification." Thanek studied him. "The Council will not react well to this." "They already reacted poorly when we followed their lead," Halverson muttered. Thanek didn't deny it. "You may not have allies here if you take this path." Arlen didn't glance away. "We're not looking for allies, we're looking for respect." The hologram faded. Thanek had heard enough. Counselor Viren rose to his full height, his ridged back arching in challenge. "You believe fear is the path to respect. You would rather intimidate than integrate." Arlen turned toward him. "You mistake fear for clarity. You see, when humans say no, we mean it. When we say a line shouldn't be crossed, it's not a metaphor. You poked at our limits because you assumed restraint meant absence of capacity." He raised one hand and signaled. The chamber doors opened. Two human officers entered, carrying what looked like a flat black case no wider than a chair. They placed it on the presentation pad and stepped back. The case opened with a hiss, revealing a compact object inside. A metal sphere with a matte surface and faint glyphs etched around its circumference. "Is that?" Counselor Zarin started. Arlen nodded. "It's a second-generation singularity containment core, decommissioned, inert, harmless in this form." Counselor Tyrax shifted. "Why bring that here?" "Because none of you ever asked how we cleared the outlier belt," Arlen said, voice level. "How we pushed back the Myrick Hive expansion without losing a single civilian transport. You assumed brute force, you assumed chaos, but humans don't fight wars the way you think we do." He gestured to the core. That was our warning system. We deployed 20 of those across the belt. Not active, just present, just visible. The Merrick looked at it and backed off. They understood we were willing to bring the sky down, if that's what it took. Counselor Viren snarled. That is barbaric. Arlen tilted his head again. To you, to us, it was containment, and not one life was lost. That's what practical mode looks like. The Volcari counselor looked ready to pounce, but Halverson took one subtle step between them. Not a threat, just a presence. You asked us to join your governance, Halverson said. We did. You asked us to help enforce peace. We did. You told us to keep our history buried. We tried. Arlen took one slow breath. But every time we built a reputation, you tore it down with backhanded remarks. Every time we stood side by side with your fleets, you whispered about how lucky we were to be here at all. He turned his gaze toward the full council. Polite mode lets you think we needed your approval to exist in this room. Practical mode says otherwise. Counselor Tyrax raised two claws, reluctantly diplomatic. Then perhaps we need new terms. If Earth believes the structure of cooperation must change, then let us propose a closed-door negotiation, just between key members and your delegation. No, Arlen said flatly. Not behind closed doors. Not anymore. If we've learned anything, it's that transparency is the only thing that gets taken seriously. You'll listen to us now, publicly. The room began to murmur. Delegates looked to their peers, unsure how to proceed. Then Councillor Darn of the Terek Union, who had remained silent for most of the session, stood. He was old even by Terek standards, stone-skinned, slow-moving, deliberate. He studied Arlen for a long moment. Tell us what you want, human, Darn said, his voice like grinding boulders. Arlen didn't hesitate. Recognition of Earth's full tactical autonomy, an amendment to the Accord ensuring human leadership in operations we are asked to execute, and an immediate audit of all Council communications referencing human assets as expendable. Zarin laughed bitterly. You're demanding precedent-breaking status. No, Arlen said. We're demanding accountability. If that's too much for the Council, say so. Then we'll know where everyone stands. The sphere on the table, though dormant, seemed to hum just slightly under the lights. The chamber wasn't silent now. It was listening. The sphere hadn't moved, but it may as well have been the only thing in the room. Delegates kept glancing at it between arguments, as if the object had started to breathe. It hadn't, but even inert, it reminded everyone that humans didn't bluff. They prepared. Counselor Tyrax twitched. You do realize that if we grant Earth full tactical autonomy, every other military-capable species will demand the same? Arlen folded his arms. Then they're welcome to earn it the way we did, on the ground, in the dark, with their own blood. Counselor Zarin looked skeptical. You cannot run this council like one of your territorial command posts. Consensus is the law of this chamber. That consensus cost us 12 men on Darson Ridge, Halverson said. Your precious votes took 48 hours. We had 12 hours of oxygen. The delay meant 12 body bags, most of them carrying out their own medics. Counselor Darn raised a rocky hand, halting the argument. Your complaint is justified. Your manner is unprecedented. We tried precedents, Arlen said. We followed protocols, smiled during insults, let words like provincial and primitive slide because we were told peace meant patience. His tone dropped. But peace without respect isn't peace. It's compliance. From the gallery balconies above, junior envoys were now standing, whispering to one another in their own tongues. Arlen caught fragments, humans breaking rank, Earth pulling weight, sphere on the table, and ignored them all. He didn't come for gossip. He came to alter posture. Viren, frustrated, finally snapped. Let me speak plainly then, since you seem to favor that. Your species is feared, not admired, tolerated, not trusted. You leap before calculating the fall. You charge into threats others study for decades. And now you demand privilege? Arlen turned to him, eyes cold. You think we leap? We run simulations. We calculate every angle. Then we act. Because while your people study, ours are already bleeding. That silenced even Viren, though his tail twitched like a wire under tension. Halverson stepped forward again. We don't ask for your trust. Keep it. We're asking for your honesty. You want us to fight your wars but won't give us a seat at the planning table. That ends now. Counselor Darn exhaled slowly. His species didn't blink, but the pause served the same purpose. And if we reject your terms, then we'll reconsider whether Earth should remain a signatory to the Accord, Arlen said flatly. Shock swept the chamber. Even Halverson gave a sideways glance. It hadn't been part of their prepared list, but Arlen didn't flinch. Zarin scoffed. You would leave the greatest diplomatic alliance in the galaxy over hurt pride? No, Arlen said. Over operational sabotage dressed as diplomacy. You want us to be the muscle, but pretend we're deaf and blind. We won't play that game anymore. Counselor Tirax gestured toward the sphere. So this display, this relic, is meant to intimidate us into rewriting the rules? No, Halverson said. That's the misunderstanding. It's not a threat. It's history, a reminder of what we're capable of when no one listens. Counselor Darn shifted his weight, the deep grating sound echoing through the floor. We admit we underestimated you, but recognition and rewriting the charter are different matters. Then let's start with recognition, Arlen said. A full operational recognition of Earth's independent strategic authority. You already let larger powers operate autonomously in their sectors. We're asking for the same. Tyrax folded his upper arms. That is more palatable, but some will still see it as capitulation. Only if they think status is more valuable than results, Arlen replied. And if that's their priority, they're free to ignore us. But don't expect our help next time the screaming starts. Halverson added, we don't need every member's approval, just enough to ratify a revised position. The ones who refuse to work with us can manage their own emergencies. Let's see how that plays out. Counselor Viren muttered something in his own tongue, and Arlen caught the tone. Disdain. Possibly fear. Good. A signal blinked on the central display. Incoming external priority transmission. The room tensed. Such transmissions during council meetings were rare and always serious. The screen displayed Admiral Dren of the Clorathi Border Watch. He looked tired. Behind him, faint flashing lights and a red alert status filled the room. We've got incoming hostiles, Dren said. Unidentified warships breaching the Arden Line. 6 worlds under potential threat. We're mobilizing. The council erupted into motion. Delegates spoke over each other. Emergency channels opened. Dren looked directly at Arlen. Captain, your patrol fleet is closest, requesting immediate tactical engagement. Viren interrupted. No, this session is still in deliberation. You can't act without. Arlen had already tapped his wristband. Commander Reyes, prepare fleet for intercept. Full burn. Clear space lanes. A voice answered crisply. Affirmative, sir. Ready in 4 minutes. Zarin barked. You don't have authority to. You gave it to us the moment you hesitated. Arlen snapped. This isn't about permission. It's about people not dying while you debate where to sit. He stepped away from the central pad. Welcome to practical mode. Watch closely. The council chamber emptied within minutes. Half the delegates fled to their own crisis rooms, issuing planet-side directives. The other half stayed frozen in their seats, caught between disbelief and the dawning realization that Earth's forces had just seized the operational initiative without council approval, and no one had dared to stop them. Admiral Dren's transmission continued in the background. We estimate 20 vessels, unknown design, no identification codes, hostile actions confirmed, civilian evacuations underway. Do they respond to contact? Arlen asked. Dren shook his head. Number, but they're precise, not random fire, tactical, clean. That ruled out pirates. They're either military or they're pretending to be, Halverson muttered. Counselor Darn approached the dais. Captain Arlen, if your forces engage now, the Council cannot guarantee political cover should things go wrong. Arlen didn't look at him. That's the difference between our species. We don't wait for guarantees. Counselor Zarin, face contorted in frustration, snapped his tendrils tight. You're going to drag us all into war. You should have thought about that before you dismissed the ones who fight your wars for you, Halverson replied. A secondary screen activated beside Dren's feed. It showed the forward camera of the Earth Patrol ship Ridgepoint. They were already in pursuit vector. The ship's path curved like a blade across starlight. Dren's voice came back. We're initiating a pincer formation, sending you the ship layouts we've managed to record. Looks like their lead vessel's cutting towards Sector 9R. That's a civilian transport route, Arlen muttered. Yes, Dren replied grimly. I know. Ridgepoint, this is Captain Arlen, he said into the comms. Divert them. Minimal force if possible. Maximum if necessary. Evacuate all non-essential vessels in the corridor. The reply was immediate. Understood. Engaging. For a moment, the chamber fell into a tense silence as the screens flickered through ship telemetry. The enemy vessels moved like coordinated predators. They weren't pirates. They weren't opportunists. They were something else. Counselor Tirax folded all four arms across his chest. If you attack without council sanction, and this provokes a full-scale response, Earth will be held accountable. Arlen glanced over at him. Then you better hope we win. The feed from Ridgepoint flared, engine trails lighting space. 4 Earth vessels broke formation to flank the leading intruder craft. The Earth ships didn't outnumber them, but they outmaneuvered them. Counselor Darn, watching the screen closely, muttered, They're baiting the lead ship. They're isolating it, Halverson said. Textbook urban evasion drill. Only, this isn't urban. This is deep space. The human ships closed in. The intruder ship responded with a sudden burst of fire. An explosion erupted on screen, but it wasn't one of Earth's ships. It was the enemy. Tyrax stood. What happened? Arlen answered. Our ships don't just dodge. They adapt. AI-assisted counterflight, reactive countermeasures. The moment they fired, we had them. The remaining enemy vessels scattered. 2 disappeared into nearby asteroid fields. The others changed trajectory, avoiding populated areas altogether. They're retreating, Dren confirmed. Earth forces holding position. 0 civilian casualties. A ripple of astonished murmurs echoed through the chamber. Counselor Zarin said nothing, merely slouched deeper into his chair. Darn leaned closer. You were ready for this. We always are, Arlen said. Counselor Viren, scowling, finally spoke again. Your methods were reckless, unauthorized. You placed your ships, and by extension, the Council, at risk. They succeeded, Darn replied before Arlen could. And they did it without waiting for us to bicker about the appropriate phrasing of a response. The stone-skinned counselor turned slowly to the chamber at large. Perhaps it's time we reevaluate which species are guiding us, and which are saving us. Zarin opened his mouth to speak but closed it again. His gaze lingered on the still humming holograms of the battle's aftermath. Counselor Tyrax was the first to say it aloud. Earth's request for operational autonomy. I propose we grant it. Shock registered in a dozen species at once, not because the proposal had been made, but because no one interrupted it. Viren's jaw tightened. And the sphere? Arlen reached out and gently shut the case containing the containment core. That was history. We brought it so you'd remember we never wanted to use that kind of power. But we had it. We have it. We just wanted you to know that polite mode was always a choice. Halverson added, and now, so is everything else. Counselor Darn nodded. Let the record show, Earth's declaration of strategic autonomy is not only acknowledged but accepted, effective immediately. No vote followed, none was needed. Silence returned. This time it wasn't tension, it was adjustment. The Council wasn't reacting to what Earth had said. They were adjusting to what Earth had become. Outside the chamber, a quiet alert pulsed through the galactic net. Enemy fleet repelled. Earth-led response. No casualties. Inside the chamber, Arlen turned toward the doors. We'll return to our ships, he said. You'll have our updated mission reports by morning, but next time there's a threat, he paused. Don't wait for polite mode, just call us. And then the humans left. Not with a declaration, not with a threat. Just with the quiet efficiency of professionals who no longer needed permission.